There's a strange thing about wisdom. It does not age, it does not wrinkle, it does not fade with time. What was true in the deserts of ancient Egypt, under the olive trees of Greece, in the crowded streets of ancient China, is still true now, even in a world lit by smartphones and satellites. We think we are modern, we think we are different, but beneath the technology, beneath the fashion, beneath the noise, we are still human. We still dream. We still fear. We still hope. And so, the truths that spoke to them still speak to us. Imagine this: a dusty scroll, hidden in the ruins of a forgotten temple. On it, a sentence: "He who conquers himself is mightier than he who conquers a city." Those words could come from a philosopher 2,500 years ago, or from a mentor today. Because human nature has not changed. Every generation thinks it is the first to feel lost, the first to feel overwhelmed, the first to face chaos. But if you listen closely, the voices of the past whisper, "We have been here before. We have walked this path, and we found the way." The call of the ancients is not a loud shout. It's a steady, patient voice, a voice that says, "Pause. Breathe. Look deeper. The answer you seek is older than you think." When you read Marcus Aurelius, it's as if the Roman emperor is sitting across the table sipping tea, giving you advice about your Monday morning stress. When you hear Lao Tzu, it's as if he's speaking directly about your relationships, your work, your restlessness. And when you hear the wisdom of the prophet, the saints, the sages, it feels as if they knew your struggles before you were even born. The truth is, they did, because human struggle has a pattern. Our tools change, our cities grow, our lives look faster, but the human heart beats the same. And this is why timeless wisdom still speaks, not because it's old, but because it's eternal. In the chapters ahead, we will journey through these truths, not as museum pieces, but as living guides. We will see how they shaped empires, healed hearts, built legacies, and how they can still guide you right now in this fast, chaotic, beautiful world you live in. The call of the ancients has not stopped. The only question is, will you listen? When you stand before an ancient monument, the pyramids, the Great Wall, the ruins of a Greek temple, you feel something strange. It's not just the awe of their size, it's the whisper of permanence, the feeling that some things were meant to last. Wisdom is like that. The world changes around it, yet it remains untouched. The principles that guided the ancients were not written for an era. They were written for the human soul. Think of them as stones, solid, enduring, unshaken by time. And every great civilization, every great thinker, every great life has built upon these same stones. The first stone is truth. Truth is not opinion. It is not fashion. It is not what is popular today and forgotten tomorrow. Truth is the foundation you can stand on when the ground beneath you is shaking. In every culture, truth is praised, because without it, nothing else stands. The second stone is discipline. From the samurai in Japan to the philosophers of Greece, every path to greatness has required self-control. It is the ability to command yourself, even when no one is watching. It's the quiet power that wins wars without a sword. The third stone is compassion. No matter the century, kindness has never gone out of style. The greatest leaders, the ones remembered for centuries, were not just powerful, they were human. They knew that without compassion, strength becomes cruelty. The fourth stone is courage. Not the absence of fear, but the choice to face it. Whether it's a warrior stepping into battle or a modern dreamer starting a business, courage is the bridge between desire and reality. And the fifth stone is humility. It may seem small, but it is the secret to lasting wisdom. For only the humble can keep learning. Only the humble can grow without arrogance destroying them. These stones were carved not by accident. but through centuries of trial and error. Empires rose when they stood upon them. Empires fell when they abandoned them. And here's the truth. We have built skyscrapers, sent satellites into space, created a digital world that moves at lightning speed. But without these stones, even our modern civilization can crumble. You see, timeless wisdom doesn't ask you to copy the past. It asks you to carry its foundation forward. Because the human story is not about replacing these stones. It's about building new worlds upon them. The ancients carved them with their lives. Now it's our turn to carve them into our own. History is not just a book of the past. It is a mirror. And when we dare to look into it, we often see ourselves staring back. Different clothes, different languages, different tools in our hands. But the same desires, the same mistakes, the same battles within the human heart. A young soldier in ancient Rome, standing on the edge of a battlefield, felt the same pounding in his chest that a modern entrepreneur feels before launching a risky venture. A farmer in ancient China feared the uncertainty of the coming winter, just as a worker today fears the instability of the economy. A queen in Egypt struggled with questions of trust, loyalty, and betrayal, just as someone today struggles to know who is truly on their side. The details change. The human story does not. Every time you face a challenge, you are not alone. Someone before you has stood in the same storm. They too searched for shelter, for hope, for a way forward. And their victories and their failures have left a map for you to follow. History shows us that prosperity can breed arrogance. Rome forgot humility and fell into decay. It shows us that fear can lead to oppression. Many regimes in history have traded freedom for the illusion of safety. And it shows us that courage, even in the smallest hands, can change the world. Think of Rosa Parks refusing to give up her seat. Think of Gandhi standing against an empire without raising a sword. These moments echo the same truth that the ancients knew. Great change is born when the human spirit refuses to bow. But here's the tragedy. We often look into the mirror of time and ignore what we see. We tell ourselves, that was then, this is now, things are different. But when we turn away from that mirror, we risk repeating the same mistakes. Wisdom comes when we stop treating history as a story about them and start seeing it as a story about us. Because the past is not dead. It is alive in our choices, in our beliefs, in the way we rise or the way we fall. In the chapters ahead, we will not just glance at history. We will stare into it until we see ourselves clearly. Because when we recognize our reflection in the past, we gain the power to shape the future. Wisdom wears many clothes. Sometimes it's wrapped in poetry. Sometimes it marches in logic. Sometimes it hides in parables and stories, waiting for the patient listener to uncover it. The sages, prophets, and philosophers of history lived in different lands and spoke different tongues. Yet, if you strip away the surface, their words share an unmistakable pattern. It's as if they were all speaking the same language. Not the language of the mouth, but the language of truth. This language has no accent. It does not belong to East or West, to ancient or modern. It belongs to the human spirit. If you listen closely, you'll find this pattern in 3 threads woven through every great philosophy. The first thread is observation. The wise do not rush to speak. They watch. They listen. Socrates questioned everyone, not to embarrass them, but to reveal the truth hidden in plain sight. Buddha sat beneath a tree, not because he was lazy, but because he was still enough to notice the nature of suffering. The starting point of all wisdom is to see reality as it is, without the fog of our own ego. The second thread is simplicity. The wise know that the deeper the truth, the wise understand that a truth not lived is a truth wasted. And here's the fascinating thing. Even in our modern world, drowning in data, flooded with information, this language still works. We may speak through screens instead of scrolls, but the principles remain unchanged. Observe, simplify, apply. When you understand this language, the words of an ancient text stop feeling distant. They stop sounding like riddles. You begin to hear them as they were meant to be heard, not as dusty artifacts, but as living advice, as clear as if the speaker were sitting across from you right now. In the next chapter, we will walk across a bridge, one that connects the wisdom of the past to the chaos of today. Because knowing the language of the wise is one thing, but knowing how to make it speak to your life, that is where transformation begins. Wisdom is not meant to be locked in the past. It is a living river, flowing, bending, adapting, yet always fed by the same ancient source. The challenge for us today is not finding wisdom. It's translating it, bridging the gap between the slow, deliberate pace of the past and the restless, breakneck speed of the present. Imagine a Roman general stepping into a modern boardroom. The setting has changed. The battlefield is no longer fields and swords. It's markets, negotiations, and strategies. Yet the same principles of leadership, discipline, and morale still apply. Or picture a monk from the mountains of Tibet, suddenly surrounded by smartphones, traffic jams, and social media notifications. At first, he might feel lost in the noise, but once he listens closely, he would see the modern mind still suffers from the same distractions, only dressed in new clothing, and his teachings on mindfulness would be just as relevant, perhaps even more so. This is the art of building bridges between eras, preserve the essence, adjust the form. When the Stoics spoke of preparing for hardship, they meant cold winters, political betrayal, or war. For us, hardship may look like a failed business, an illness, or the slow erosion of our mental peace in a digital age. But the strategy to strengthen the mind before the storm arrives is unchanged. When the ancients spoke of knowing yourself, they had no idea about personality tests or brain scans. Yet their call to self-awareness remains the same, because no app can replace the inner work of truly understanding your fears, desires, and strengths. Adapting wisdom is not about modernizing the message until it loses its soul. It is about carrying the flame without letting it die in the wind of change. We are the bridge builders. We stand with one foot in the past, one foot in the present, and our eyes fixed on the future. We take what has stood the test of centuries and reframe it for a world that moves in seconds. In the chapters ahead, we will confront the greatest obstacle to hearing this wisdom today, the endless noise of the modern world. Because before we can cross the bridge, we must first learn to silence the storm around us. The ancients lived in a world of seasons and cycles, the rise of the sun, the fall of the leaves, the slow passage of years. Life moved like a river, steady, unhurried. And in that slowness, there was space. Space to think, space to reflect, space to listen. Today, our world is not a river. It is a flood, a constant roaring torrent of sound, images, opinions, and demands. We live inside a storm of notifications, headlines, messages, and endless scrolling. In the past, wisdom spoke in whispers. Now, those whispers are drowned out by 1,000 voices shouting for your attention every second. You can't walk through a modern city without being sold something. You can't scroll for more than a minute without being told what to fear, what to buy, what to envy. And you can't open your phone without stepping into a marketplace where your time, your focus, and even your peace of mind are for sale. This is the challenge of the present age. Wisdom has not disappeared. We've simply forgotten how to hear it. Think of it like this. If a violinist plays the most beautiful melody in the middle of a rock concert, will anyone hear it? Not because the music is gone, but because the noise is too loud. The noise of now takes many forms. It's the constant pressure to respond instantly. It's the illusion that faster is always better. It's the fear of missing out, even when what we're missing doesn't matter. And perhaps most dangerously, it's the addiction to distraction. We fear stillness because it forces us to face our own thoughts. So we fill the silence with noise, thinking we're escaping discomfort. But in truth, we're escaping ourselves. But here's the good news. The antidote to noise is not to run away from the world. It is to create pockets of stillness within it, to carve out moments where you can breathe, reflect, and reconnect with the deeper truths. Because wisdom will not compete with the noise. It will wait. It will be patient. It will be there when you choose to listen. In the next chapter, we will discover how these timeless truths can act as anchors, steady points in the storm that keep us from being swept away. There are moments in life when the waters turn rough, the sky darkens, the winds rise, and the world feels unstable. It could be a personal loss, a financial crisis, a broken relationship, or a sudden change you never saw coming. In those moments, we often scramble for anything, any bit of certainty to hold on to. But if we don't have anchors already set, the storm can sweep us away. The ancients understood this better than we do. They lived in a world where storms, both literal and metaphorical, were a part of life. And so they learned to keep certain principles close, like sailors keeping ropes ready before the clouds gather. The first anchor is perspective. When the storm hits, it's easy to believe it will never end. But history and life teach us otherwise. Empires have risen and fallen. Plagues have come and gone. And each time, humanity has found a way forward. Remembering this truth keeps panic from becoming your captain. The second anchor is values. In chaos, it's tempting to compromise on what matters just to survive the moment. But when you abandon your values, you lose your compass. Integrity, kindness, courage. These are the lines that keep your ship from drifting into dangerous waters. The third anchor is adaptability. The strongest trees don't survive storms by resisting the wind. They survive by bending without breaking. Wisdom teaches us to hold our principles firmly, but our plans lightly, because the road may change, but the destination can remain the same. The fourth anchor is connection. In the storms of life, isolation can feel safe, but it is a dangerous harbor. The ancients built communities not just for survival, but for strength. Sharing the load does not make you weaker, it makes you steadier. And the final anchor is faith, not necessarily in a religious sense, but in the deep belief that there is meaning beyond the present chaos, that the storm is a teacher, not just a destroyer. When the winds howl, these anchors keep you grounded. They do not stop the storm. No wisdom can promise that. But they keep you steady until the waters calm and the sun breaks through again. Because storms are not the end of the journey. They are simply the test of how well you have prepared for it. In the next chapter, we will go deeper into the moral challenges of our time and see how wisdom serves as both light and compass when we walk through life's shadows. Life rarely presents choices in perfect black and white. Most of the time, the paths before us are painted in shades of gray. You know the moments when doing what's right may cost you something precious, when telling the truth could hurt someone you love, when loyalty and justice pull you in opposite directions. These are not just decisions, they are tests of the soul. The ancients knew this well. They told stories of heroes who faced impossible choices, not to entertain, but to teach us that morality is rarely simple. King Solomon was praised for wisdom, not because he followed a manual, but because he could see the heart of the matter when the law alone was not enough. Wisdom, in these moments, acts like a lantern in the dark. It doesn't always reveal the entire path, but it gives enough light for the next step. The first lesson of wisdom in moral dilemmas is reflection. The impulsive choice often feels easiest in the moment. But wisdom asks you to pause, to look beyond the immediate gain or relief and ask, what will this choice make of me? The second lesson is perspective. It's easy to judge a decision by its short-term outcome, but wisdom looks to the long arc. How will this shape relationships, trust, and your own integrity years from now? The third lesson is balance. The Stoics taught that virtue is found in the middle path, not in extremes. Courage without caution is recklessness. Compassion without boundaries becomes self-destruction. The wise know that every virtue needs its counterweight. In our modern world, these dilemmas have taken on new forms. Should you protect privacy at the cost of transparency? Should you speak your mind in a climate that rewards outrage over understanding? Should you chase opportunity if it means sacrificing time with those who matter most? The truth is, no one can hand you the perfect answer in these moments. But wisdom equips you with a compass, values, perspective, and patience, so that even in the shadows, you can move toward the light. Because the goal of wisdom is not to make you flawless. It is to make you conscious, so that when you choose with both eyes open, aware of the cost, and willing to bear it. In the next chapter, we will leave the realm of theory and enter the world of practice, exploring how anyone, even in this noisy, distracted age, can live like a modern sage. When we think of wisdom, we often picture a monk in the mountains, a hermit in the desert, a philosopher in a quiet library, untouched by the chaos of everyday life. And while solitude can sharpen wisdom, it is not the only path. You do not need to disappear from the world to live wisely. In fact, the greatest challenge and the greatest victory is to walk through the noise and still carry silence within you. The modern sage is not defined by robes or rituals, but by choices. They can be a teacher in a busy school, a parent raising children, an entrepreneur building a company, a student figuring out who they are. What makes them a sage is not their job or location. It's the way they move through the world. First, the modern sage learns to filter. They know that not all information is wisdom, and not all noise deserves attention. They choose what enters their mind the way a careful gardener chooses what to plant in fertile soil. Second, they practice presence. In an age of constant distraction, the modern sage is fully where they are. If they're talking to you, you feel heard. If they're working, they're not halfway somewhere else in their mind. They treat each moment as a complete experience, not a stepping stone to the next. Third, they live their values in the small things. The ancients taught that greatness is built in daily habits, not in rare heroic acts. A modern sage is not waiting for a stage to speak truth. They practice honesty in the checkout line. They're not waiting for a crisis to show courage. They practice it in conversations and choices every day. And finally, they influence without forcing. The modern sage does not need to win every argument. They lead by example, trusting that living well is more persuasive than speaking loudly. Here's the beautiful truth. You don't need to withdraw from life to gain wisdom. You can be in the marketplace, in the office, in the home, and still be a quiet center in a spinning world. Because wisdom isn't about escaping reality. It's about transforming how you walk through it. In the next chapter, we'll take all we've explored and bring it into action, learning how to live the legacy of timeless wisdom every single day. Wisdom is not a trophy to be displayed. It is a tool to be used. Its value is not in knowing it, but in living it. Many people treat wisdom like a beautiful book they never open. They nod in agreement with its words. They quote it in conversation. But when life tests them, they leave it on the shelf. The ancients never intended their lessons to be mere decoration. They were meant to be worn, like armor, and wielded, like a compass. Living the legacy of wisdom begins in the smallest moments, It's in the pause before you speak, choosing truth over impulse. It's in the decision to keep a promise, even when it costs you something. It's in the choice to be kind, not because it's easy, but because it's right. You see, wisdom doesn't ask you to change your entire life overnight. It asks for consistency, not perfection. Just as drops of water carve stone over centuries, small acts of wisdom shape a life that will outlast you. The legacy is built when your values guide your schedule. When you don't just agree with principles, you arrange your days around them. When patience guides your parenting, when humility shapes your leadership, when integrity rules your business. And here's the quiet truth. You may never see the full reach of your legacy, but others will. The people you teach, the lives you touch, the examples you set, they become seeds you may never see grow, but they will still bear fruit. In living the legacy, you are not just borrowing the wisdom of the past, you are adding to it. You become part of the unbroken chain of human beings who have carried light forward through the darkness. In the next and final chapter, we will close the circle. We will return to where we began and discover how timeless wisdom is passed on, generation after generation, so its flame never dies. Every generation stands at a crossroads. One road leads to forgetting, to letting the lessons fade into dust. The other leads to remembrance, to carrying the light forward. Wisdom is not ours to hoard. It is a river meant to flow. If we try to dam it, it grows stagnant. But when we share it, it stays alive. Think of the voices that have shaped you. A parent's quiet advice, a teacher's encouragement, a friend's warning, a book that spoke to your soul. Those voices came from someone who chose the road of remembrance. They did not let the torch die in their hands. Now, the torch is in yours. The question is not whether you will hold it. The question is whether you will pass it on. Passing wisdom forward doesn't require speeches or books. Sometimes it's a story told over dinner. Sometimes it's the example you set when no one is watching. Sometimes it's the moment you choose to listen rather than judge. And here's the beauty of it. The people you inspire may never tell you. They may not even realize it in the moment. But years from now, they will remember a choice you made, a word you spoke, a kindness you offered. And in that moment, they will pass it on. So the circle continues. From one soul to another, from one lifetime to the next. You began this journey seeking wisdom for yourself. Now, you leave it carrying the responsibility and the privilege to share it. And as you do, remember this: you are not just a student of wisdom. You are now part of its story. And the story will not end as long as you live it and give it away.